What is a life well lived? That is one of the questions I walked away asking myself from Gustave Flaubert's A Simple Heart. In this short story, we meet a young servant girl, Felicity, who slaves away for a difficult mistress, suffers tragedy after tragedy, and ultimately, in an extreme indicator of her heart's simplicity, begins to worship a stuffed parrot before breathing her last in a ferocious and agonizing case of pneumonia. Was Felicity's life well lived? By his raising of the reader's sympathy and pity for Felicity, I believe Flaubert wanted his readers to decide that question for themselves, and by so doing, it raises the question, what is a life well lived? And so, to answer that question, we will look at 4 other texts that touch on this topic. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, we meet a character of immense power who is obsessed with one thing: leaving a legacy. For example, before attempting to slay the demon Humbaba and cut down the cedar forest, he says, "Should I fall, I will have established my fame. It is I who will establish fame for eternity." However, when his companion Enkidu is killed, he sees the power of death and is afraid. He cries, "I am going to die, I fear death," and, "Am I not like him? Will I lie down never to get up again?" And so Gilgamesh embarks on a quest for eternal life. Through a series of challenges, he obtains the plant that has the power to give him what he seeks. But in a moment when Gilgamesh shows his humanity, the plant is destroyed. Gilgamesh died just like every other man. But was his life a life well lived? He died, but he left a legacy. Could that be what it is to live well? While leaving a good legacy can be an important thing in the life of a believer, and is encouraged by proverbs such as, "The memory of the righteous is a blessing, but the name of the wicked will rot." Securing a legacy should not be the primary goal of a believer. Rather, our goal should be to make known the name of Christ. We see an excellent example of this in the life of John the Baptist, fittingly verbalized in his phrase, "He must increase, but I must decrease."
In Things Fall Apart, the Amufia tribe would use Okonkwo's life prior to the events of the book as one that was well lived. Fortunately, among these people, a man was judged according to his worth, and not according to the worth of his father. Okonkwo was clearly cut out for great things. He was still young, but he had won fame as the greatest wrestler in the 9 villages. He was a wealthy farmer, and had 2 barns full of yams, and had just married his 3rd wife. To crown it all, he had taken 2 titles, and had showed incredible prowess in the 2 intertribal wars. And so, although Okonkwo was still young, he was already one of the greatest men of his time. Age was respected among his people, but achievement was revered. To Okonkwo and his fellow tribe members, a life well lived was one in which you worked hard to amass wealth and proved yourself through feats of physical prowess. However, this view on life fails to consider anything other than physical achievement. 1 John 2:15-17 says, "Do not love the world or the things of the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh, and the desires of the eye, and the pride of life, is not from the Father, but is from the world. And the world is passing away along with its desires. But whoever does the will of God abides forever."
Shakespeare's Hamlet, and in particular Polonius in his speech to his son Laertes, in Act 1, Scene 3, outlines how a life well lived would look according to their society. Polonius gives instruction to Laertes on how to live well on his travels to France. This advice is given to ensure Laertes lives his life well. "And these few precepts in thy memory, look thou character, do not dull thy palm with entertainment. Costly thy habit as thy purse can buy, neither a borrower nor a lender be. Above all, to thine own self be true." In his speech, Polonius gives what appears to be sound advice on how to live well. Indeed, it is very sound advice for someone living an earthly life. However, a life well lived is not necessarily a life filled with material wealth and success. Luke 6:35 says that one should lend expecting nothing in return, and if one does so, their reward will be great.
The Death of Ivan Ilyich is a rather interesting book in a discussion of a life well lived. Ivan seems to have it all. He finds joy in his work, he has pleasure in his marriage, and he has quite a few hobbies. The pleasures connected with his work were pleasures of ambition, his social pleasures were those of vanity, but Ivan Ilyich's greatest pleasure was playing bridge. So they lived, and all went well, without change, and life flowed pleasantly. However, there are a few shortcomings of his life that he only seems to realize when, spoiler alert, he's about to die. At that very moment, Ivan Ilyich fell through and caught sight of the light, and it was revealed to him that though his life had not been what it should have been, this could still be rectified. Ultimately, his life never truly satisfies him because he wants more than what he has, and he spends too much time in his flaws. Ivan is more concerned about what society wants him to do. In Matthew 6:19-21, Jesus tells us how to effectively live our lives. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Effectively, he's saying that though we can be in the world, we are not supposed to be of the world. Our true source of satisfaction in life is found in him. The book of Ecclesiastes gives us a good view of how to have a properly well-lived life, where other characters miss the point. The teacher of this book warns us not to focus on earthly desires because they do not truly satisfy the soul. This is best identified in Ecclesiastes 1:2-4, which says, "Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. What do people gain from all their labors at which they toil under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever." Throughout the book, the teacher says that pleasure, work, riches, and wisdom all have no permanent meaning. How, then, can a life be well lived? The teacher says in Ecclesiastes 12:13-14 that obeying God is the most worthwhile thing we can do. Now all has been heard, here's the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the duty of all mankind. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. By living our life in a way that pleases God, we can find true value in our life. For though it is short, the Lord's judgment lasts an eternity.